It's time for Toker Talk Radio, the voice of the marijuana nation.
What are you people? On dope?
Where you can toke.
I inhale frequently.
Or you can talk.
I experimented with marijuana and didn't inhale.
Or you can toke and talk.
10 federal criminal penalties for possession of up to 1 ounce of marijuana.
While we talk about toke on Toker Talk Radio.
So, by the way, when it comes to pot, if you're 40 years old, you live in a log cabin in Oregon, you got 12 giant pot plants in your backyard, have a ball.
Live from beautiful Portland, Oregon at Rolla J Studios.
Hey, this is great. Just like cannabis.
Plus your calls live at 971-533-7111.
They're walking on their pants with their cap on backwards, listening to Enema Man and Snoopy Poop Dog.
What's to keep somebody from getting all potted up on weed and then getting behind the wheel? Gateway theory doesn't work. It's a reality.
Holland, is it real? Don't tease me.
We're locking up people that take a couple of puffs of marijuana, and the next thing you know, they got 10 years.
And now, here's your host, the guru of ganja graphics, the sultan of sativa statistics, and the worst nightmare of a reefer-mad prohibitionist. A polite, perspicacious, productive pothead with a propensity for PowerPoint. Radical Russ Belville.
Oh, welcome back, Tokers and Tokettes. Radical Russ here in Hollywood, Florida. Have to excuse me a minute, I'm responding. I got a personal message in Twitter from Charlo Green. You know Charlo Green? She's the Alaska news anchor who said, "Fuck it, I quit" on live TV, and is now a cannabis superhero as far as I'm concerned. So she sent me a message that she is hosting a Cannabis Diversity Summit. And it's in Denver, Colorado on May 15th. And she sent me a note asking if I could be there to cover it on May 15th. And so I'm having to send her a note back that, ironically, I'm in Anchorage, Alaska that day. So there we go. She comes to the mountains and I'm headed to her neck of the woods. Oh, well, sorry, Charlo. I will promote that for you, though. I think that's so great that we're getting involved in that. Let me just read to you. It's Charlo Green to host first Cannabis Diversity Summit in Denver. Charlo Green, the self-proclaimed cannabis queen of diversity, is holding her first ever Cannabis Diversity Summit in Denver on May 15th. The summit is being held to address the lack of diversity in cannabis industry leadership, according to event information. And so we're looking forward to this. She's founded a organization called Go Green, GREENE.org, which is aimed at cultivating diversity, unity, and opportunity in cannabis to help rebuild the communities harmed by prohibition the most. And she'll have all sorts of great panelists there in Denver, including Law Enforcement Against Prohibition Executive Director Neil Franklin, former Oregon NORML Executive Director, and my mentor, Madeline Martinez, will be there. Judge Shelley Hayes, Dr. Lakeisha Jenkins, Dr. Rachel Knox, and attorney Brandon Wyatt. To get to the tickets, you can get them for free at gogreen.org and at cannabisdiversitysummit.com. And this is this is a big issue as we continue the development of the cannabis industry, because so many people of color have been decimated, their communities decimated by this war on drugs. Disproportionately arrested, disproportionately sentenced, disproportionately incarcerated, and for disproportionately long times. So as marijuana becomes legal, there is a lot of concern amongst minority communities that the faces they're seeing running these big cannabis companies are white faces. Now, I've always pushed back a little on this because it was the white faces that were doing all the activism for a long time. Right? So there is that aspect to it. And there's reasons why that is. And I'm not saying this to blame anybody, right? On the other hand, back in Dr. King's days, it was fire hoses and billy clubs and attack dogs. So, to me, it just seems like, do we take this seriously as a civil rights issue or not? Right? Back in the day, back in the 60s, people were willing to risk all sorts of danger to march for civil rights. So why did that same attitude not get put toward legalization of cannabis? When we know that now, especially from Ehrlichman and the Harper's Magazine thing, that we know that cannabis prohibition was instituted as a way specifically to infiltrate left-wing movements and minority movements, the American Indian movement, the Black Power movement, Latino rights movements. To me, it seems like it should have been obvious much earlier that this was a civil rights issue, and those people most affected by it should have been out there marching with us. But anyway, that's the past. And as we look to the future, we got to figure out how are we going to have more inclusivity, more diversity in the movement.
This is the Russ Belville Show on CannabisRadio.com.
Cannabis use isn't the only thing growing. So are we. Grow with us. CannabisRadio.com.
Ganjapreneur.com, your guide to the cannabis business world. Ganjapreneur.com is a comprehensive resource for cannabis professionals and entrepreneurs. Download the Ganjapreneur app on your smartphone or tablet to catch up on cannabis industry news, scroll through our daily job listings, and learn about successful cannabis companies, executives, and investors. Ganjapreneur.com, helping Ganjapreneurs grow.
Cannabis Confidential with Dr. Dina. Candid.
I want to give you the inside story.
Captivating.
I want to introduce you to my kind and amazingly talented friends.
Compelling.
We get to meet some of the most amazing cannabis activists and warriors around.
Listen in as medical marijuana pioneer Dr. Dina shares never-before-heard stories, chats with cannabis insiders and celebrity friends, and provides invaluable perspective and insight into one of the fastest-growing industries in the world.
I want to share with you what was once confidential information. Let's expose the truth, discuss the issues, and learn the facts.
Cannabis Confidential, only on CannabisRadio.com.
This is Dan Michaels from DanMichaelsAudio.com, and you're listening to Radical Russ on CannabisRadio.com.
With over 6 years of experience in the industry, New Era CPAs is one of the nation's leading cannabis accounting firms, helping hundreds of growers, dispensaries, and ancillary companies with their tax, legal, and business strategies. New Era CPA's offices cover the West Coast from Seattle to San Diego, and their skilled team is always available to help you take your business to the next level. Visit NewEraCPAs.com for more info and set up a consultation. Welcome to the New Era.
Most of us pirates, we go on vacation to North Dakota, you know, because they've got a town called Argusville. What are you smoking there, boy?
This is Dan Michaels from DanMichaelsAudio.com, and you're listening to Radical Russ on CannabisRadio.com.
All right, welcome back, everybody. I just forwarded something that I was taking a look at from Klamath County, Oregon. Now, Klamath County, Oregon is in rural southern Oregon, kind of south central Oregon. And it's got double the unemployment rate of Oregon. Like the whole rest of the state, right? So it's got double the unemployment rate. It's got close to zero growth. And they've got really no sustainable industries in Klamath County. It was for a long time very dependent on the timber industry. That ship has sailed. There's not as much in timber anymore. So Klamath County now could, if it wanted to, allow for the marijuana business to take off. You know, marijuana has been legalized in the state of Oregon. But the eastern counties got this special deal from the legislature that allows them to ban marijuana businesses. And they have. So this comes from the OregonBusiness.com, entitled "Not in My Backyard, Klamath County Association Opposes Cannabis Measure." And we're talking about the Klamath County Economic Development Association. And they're charged with, trying to revitalize this economy, which I said is at zero growth, double unemployment, no sustainable industries. So they've opposed a ballot measure in Klamath County, ballot measure 18-105. And this is a ballot measure to overturn the commercial licensing ban in Klamath County. And they, of course, are formally opposed. They're formally opposed to ending the ban on cannabis businesses because, by God, they wouldn't want to have business development in Klamath County. Now, according to the person they spoke with, Greg O'Sullivan, he's the executive director of this Economic Development Association, he was asked, why is it more important to Klamath County to maintain the ban on recreational marijuana when the new industry could boost the local economy? Greg O'Sullivan answered that I wouldn't cede the idea that recreational marijuana will boost the local economy. Oh really, Greg? So like you're allergic to data, I guess. Because if you take a look at what's going on in Washington State, what's going on in Colorado, unemployment is down. Businesses have been creating. Growth is up. Rents are going up. The property values are going up. Tax revenues to the tune of millions and millions of dollars are coming into these counties and cities. So this idea that it's not going to boost your local economy is just a fantasy you're holding on to. It's not reflected in any of the data or experience that we've seen in the legal states so far. But here's his catch, right? He's even hedging his bet a bit on whether or not there'd be some economic improvement, because he says a few businesses may benefit, but there would be costs imposed on other businesses and the entire community. If public safety or health costs increase, if educational attainment or workforce quality decline, if homelessness and transiency rise, or the perceived quality of life in Klamath County falls, then naturally the whole community bears those costs. So this guy thinks, first of all, understand that marijuana exists in Klamath County. Okay, Greg, there's already people in Klamath County smoking pot. They're already doing it. They're already smoking pot. They're already growing pot. And it's legal for them to do so. Just because your county can ban the commercial growth and commercial sales doesn't mean that growth and sales aren't happening. They're happening. But Klamath County's not getting any money from that. And so this idea that there would be a massive decrease in educational attainment if you allowed marijuana licenses. He's not saying that educational attainment would drop because people are smoking pot. He's saying because there'd be businesses selling pot, somehow everybody who's already smoking pot would do worse in school. Right? I mean, my point is, Greg, that if the marijuana is causing a decrease in educational attainment and workforce quality, then it's happening now. You're already having it because people are already smoking pot. And this idea that homelessness is going to rise or the perceived quality of life will fall, this just gets you into what he's really talking about, which is canna-bigotry. He doesn't want to see those kind of people. You know what I mean? Doesn't want to see those kind of people. He's often saying, he says, if employers are not confident they can build a drug-free workforce, they are less likely to relocate to or expand within the county. But again, how does having a legal pot shop where the people who are already smoking pot can buy pot, how does that help your drug-free or hurt your drug-free community? The people are already smoking pot, Greg. That's the thing. Having a store for them to buy it from does not change the fact that they're still smoking pot. You will have the same drug-free workforce you have now, or don't have now, because they're already smoking pot. He also says, if retail stores spoil the old-time charm of our county's historic downtown areas through increased crime, open use of marijuana in public spaces, or greater homelessness and transiency, it may be viewed as a less attractive place to visit or live. We find that to be the logical conclusion. Okay. Well, let's take a look at your logic here for a second. How would retail marijuana spoil your old-time charm? Through increased crime, you say? See, by definition, having a legal place to sell marijuana decreases crime because there will be fewer people selling illegal marijuana. You'll impact the black market for marijuana. You may not know it, Greg, but people in Klamath County right now are parking in Walmart parking lots and meeting each other for sly distributions of marijuana here and there. They're meeting each other in public parks to trade a bag here and there. They're finding some alley somewhere to smoke pot in because there's no place to smoke it. Everything you think is bad about pot, as far as seeing people publicly smoking it or it being sold on street corners, is solved by passing this ordinance, is solved by giving people a place to be legal. I think part of what gets into these people's minds is that they think pot smokers aren't people, that they somehow think they're a different species or something. Like, what alcohol drinker out there would want it to be illegal? What alcohol drinker would be comfortable driving to some parking lot somewhere to get a flask of some clear alcoholic liquid made by some dude in his bathtub? Would those people be different people if they were forced to exist in a prohibited market? The mindset these people have about cannabis consumers, the only analogy I can come up with, and this is an old one, you may not know it unless you're older, but you remember Foster Brooks. Foster Brooks was this comedian, like the Dean Martin era kind of guy, who played a drunk. That was his character, was this sloshy, fallen down drunk. And back in the day, it was hilarious. That, you know, times change. Right now, he'd be seen as a sad alcoholic, but back in the day, that was a comedic character that he played. And the people like this Greg O'Sullivan who think about, oh my God, there'll be transiency and homelessness, must think that all pot smokers are the worst case stereotype, deranged type hippie that he can think of. Just like if you thought every drinker was Foster Brooks. And it's just not true. It's not to say that the Foster Brookses aren't out there. There are alcoholics. There are, people with alcohol dependency issues, sure. Just as there are, unkempt, stinky hippies sometimes that smoke pot. But they're not the vast majority. The vast majority of us are people like me and you, dear listener, who are, able, that are responsible adults who have jobs and families and homes. And all we're asking is that when we're in Klamath County, you don't force us to join a criminal market to get a substance that's legal in that state. It blows my mind to think that there's people in Oregon, in these eastern counties, that now that there's legal pot, they want to resist pot shops. I could give you a small break before legalization happened as to whether or not you wanted a pot shop, because it was still illegal completely, right? But now that it's legal to possess marijuana in Oregon, it's legal to grow marijuana in Oregon, and it's legal to give marijuana to each other in Oregon. Now you have a situation where everything you didn't like about the illegal pot market has just been made more safe. It's been incentivized. I'm a whole lot less afraid to go to that Walmart parking lot and wait for the guy delivering a bag, because unless the cop can catch me handing him cash for the bag, they will have nothing to bust us for. We got less than an ounce on us. It's an adult giving weed to another adult. You're in a situation now where the black market can thrive in the absence of these stores, and the only way to get rid of them is the stores. You can't use the cops now to get rid of the things you don't like about the black market, because it's almost perfectly covered by those parts of Measure 91 that made cannabis legal that you can't ban. So now it's even double stupid to be rejecting the legal marijuana markets. It's like you've gone halfway now, and there's no turning back.
We interrupt this program to annoy you and make things generally irritating.
Thank you very much for that. Hey folks, it's 4:20 back in the Pacific time zone now, all the way across the continent. I'm here in Hollywood, Florida. It's 7:20 here. But you know, it's 4:20 everywhere, so we got to take a safety briefing. And when we come back, we got some more stories to talk about. Brazil in the news and some Cinco de Mayo strains for you when we return.
We don't limit how much you smoke, and we don't limit where you listen. Cannabis Radio is now on iTunes, Stitcher, and iHeartRadio.
The next generation of vaporizers has arrived. Vuber vaporizers are blazing the way with unparalleled technology for oil, concentrate, or dry flower pens. Providing unsurpassed customer service and expert craftsmanship, Vuber vaporizers use cutting-edge technology, providing a power-packed, smoother vapor with a lifetime guarantee. Experience vaporizing the way it was meant to be. The Vuber way.
Hey, this is Willie Nelson for Normal. And I smoke pot and I like it a lot. I learned a long time ago that marijuana is a lot safer than alcohol. There's nothing wrong with the responsible use of marijuana by adults. It's time we stopped arresting and started respecting those who smoke marijuana responsibly. To learn what you can do to help, contact Normal at NORML.org or call toll-free 888-67-NORMAL.
You're not high. You're listening to the Russ Belville Show on CannabisRadio.com.
And if standing for the Constitution make you a wacko bird, then I am a very, very proud wacko bird.
Okay, maybe you're high, too.
When you are starting up a medical cannabis business, you want a fired-up lawyer who understands the needs of cannabis consumers. The law office of Lauren Vasquez is your fired-up lawyer for the cannabis industry. Visit her website, firedupLawyer.com, or call 1-855-MMJ-LAWS for more information. That's 855-665-5297 for Lauren Vasquez, your fired-up lawyer, or email fireduplawyer@gmail.com.
And Blue Blasten Gergen, Pfaffen der Blasten Schnurm Norben. You're tuned into the Russ Belville Show, the voice of the marijuana nation, only on CannabisRadio.com.
All right, welcome back, everybody. 23 and a half after the hour, and get some news here from Leafly that notes that Brazil has approved RSHO as an imported medication to treat cancer. And there's some controversy to this, by the way. The company's called Medical Marijuana Inc., and they make a hemp-derived cannabidiol oil product. By hemp-derived, what we're talking about is they get this from industrial hemp plants that are less than 0.3% THC, and they get the CBD from those plants, and they make what they call RSHO, Real Scientific Hemp Oil. And the Brazilian federal government's healthcare system will be subsidizing the cost. Now, I've had patients that have expressed to me that this RSHO was not the stuff they had been led to believe, and that it caused them some distress and discomfort. Stu Titus, the CEO of Medical Marijuana Inc., has been a guest on the show, and I have questioned him about that. So it's tough for me to know how I feel about this. I do feel that anytime we're making progress in marijuana reform, that it's a good thing. And anytime internationally this ball is moving forward, it's a good thing. But I worry that we want to put our best foot forward when we're doing this legalization and we're doing medical marijuana. And if a product like RSHO ends up getting bad reviews and negative word of mouth for cannabis in general, well, it could be a problem. We'll have to see. This is a sponsored article that's in Leafly, so they did buy this information. And again, the Project CBD people, probably better authorities than myself to get into the cannabis chemistry that's involved in all of this. But that's the latest news from Brazil. Also, speaking of Latin America, today is Cinco de Mayo, which is really, it's not much of a Mexican holiday anyway. It's the Mexicans beat, who was it that they beat? Somebody, it signifies some battle that was won. And it's really not anything that's much celebrated in Mexico, but here in America, it's kind of become the official Latino holiday. So I'm out here in South Florida, and out there on the boardwalk, all the, the Cinco de Mayo specials are going on. In Leafly, Bailey Ron writes a piece about 6 cannabis strains with Mexican heritage that you need for Cinco de Mayo. So that would include Acapulco Gold. And I just want to know, can you folks find Acapulco Gold? I've been wanting to try it, and I have yet to find it. And I have the benefit of traveling all over the country and going to all sorts of places, and I have yet to find some Acapulco Gold. There's also Mexican Sativa, Cantaloupe Haze, and these are all sativas, those first 3. And then they recommend Trainwreck, which they say is a hybrid mutt descended from Mexican and Thai sativas, crossbred with Afghani indicas. Has limonene, a lot of limonene in it, Trainwreck. Also Haze, and they note that you may not have tried the original Haze, which was developed as a result of crossing Mexican, Thai, Colombian, and South Indian varieties. And of course, there's lots of different varieties of Haze now, but it's a very popular strain up here in the Pacific Northwest. When I'm there, I should say. I'm not up there right now. There's Nirvana Seeds has produced a NYPD, which is descended from Mexican landrace strain known as El Dorado, crossed with Aurora Indica. It's got a diesel flavor and a little bit of lemon to it as well. So there are your strains: NYPD Haze, Trainwreck, Cantaloupe Haze, Mexican Sativa, and Acapulco Gold. Also, earlier today, we talked a little bit about the Adult Use of Marijuana Act, and I've made a proclamation on my Facebook page that if you're going to post anti-Adult Use of Marijuana Act in my comments or on my page, I am blocking you. I've had it. I'm done. I am done with even countenancing an argument. I'm at the point now, like where scientists are with creationists. Like even arguing with these people gives them more legitimacy than they deserve. It's, all of this doom and gloom. Oh my God, this decision and that decision combined with this that goes with the Medical Marijuana Act could mean that this would happen. And look, folks, you can set your fevered imagination to all sorts of possible worst case scenarios that could happen. And none of them, they all pale in comparison to the best case scenario that's going to happen. And that is the 5th largest economy on the planet will legalize marijuana. It's not 2006 anymore. It's not 2010 anymore. These silly arguments from stoners against legalization every one of them has been disproved by the legalization that's happened in Colorado, Washington, Oregon, and Alaska. None of those stoner against legalization doomsayers had ever got a prediction right. They said the price of weed would be $600 ounces. Ounces are down to below 150 now. They said there'd be a massive increase in DUIDs. No, they've pretty much held steady. There'd be tricks of the cops using their money now to go after growers more because now they know they could get. No, they haven't. In Washington state, 63% of all charges that were filed, there was a 63% drop in all charges filed. That means in Washington state, where they don't have home grow, remember, 2 out of 3 people, just about 2 out of 3 people who would have been busted had the law not changed, did not get busted. And that number increases to 80% when we look at Colorado, because they do have home grow. The number one thing about marijuana legalization, and this would hold true whether it's 1 plant or 6 plants in 1 ounce, or if it was 1 plant and 1 gram, it wouldn't matter. The number one thing marijuana legalization does is end the contraband nature of cannabis. Period. Cannabis is no longer anything for a cop to care about. Even decrim doesn't do that. Even medical doesn't do that. Under both, marijuana is still illegal. It's still a piece of contraband. And the mere sight of it, or smell of it, or the allegation of the smell of it, is enough to trigger all of the roles that cops play in trying to bust people. It's enough to start the probable cause, start the reasonable suspicion. It's enough to start the search and the seizure and the frisking and the asset forfeiture. The mere excuse that a cop has that he can say, I smell marijuana, whether he actually smells it or not, or he brings his little canine dog to alert, whether the dog's actually alerting or the handler is cueing it. All of that disappears when you legalize even a gram of marijuana. First of all, the drug dogs have to be retired. You can't untrain a drug dog from sniffing pot. So if you have a drug dog that sniffs pot, coke, meth, heroin, LSD, ecstasy, whatever, all the drugs, right? If you've got that drug dog and pot becomes legal, that dog has to be retired. You can't just unplug the pot smelling part. That's not the way dogs work. That you can't untrain them from alerting to cannabis. It doesn't work that way. And even if you thought you could, it still wouldn't help, because anybody who's dealing ecstasy or LSD or heroin or coke or meth, all they'd have to do is keep a single bud of cannabis with their stash. And then their defense lawyer could say, well, Your Honor, you'll have to throw out this evidence because this was an illegal search. Because that dog could have been alerting on cannabis, and cannabis is legal. Because there's no way to ask the dog, hey, dog, when you were scratching at that briefcase, were you scratching because it was pot or because it was heroin? Woof, woof. That's all you're going to get back, right? The dog can't distinguish why he sniffed something. So when pot's legal, pot becomes a way for drug dealers to be able to get out of the evidence collection just by storing a little bud with their stash. So you have to retire the damn drug dogs. They're no good anymore. In every state, look it up. Go Google retired canines, marijuana. There's a story from Colorado when they first legalized how they had, poor Fido. He's been a long time servant, 10 years on the force, and now he's retired. Stories from Washington State, stories from Oregon, stories from Alaska, same story. They have to retire the drug dog. Just retiring the drug dog from being able to sniff marijuana, right there is going to end a great number of your marijuana charges. Because that is the method by which people that are busted on the side of the road are often busted, is by the alert of a drug dog. Whether the dog really found anything or was alerting to a previous smell, but it was there, but it's not there anymore. But whatever, that alert from the drug dog unlocks the Fourth Amendment. It unlocks the Fourth Amendment for those cops to start rifling through your stuff, to start making your life a living hell. So that's it. I'm not taking it anymore. I'm not going to countenance any opposition to the Adult Use of Marijuana Act, because as far as I'm concerned, if you're against the Adult Use of Marijuana Act, you're no better than Kevin Sabet. You're no better than the cops and the drug czar and the drug testers and the rehabbers and big pharma and prison guards and the alcohol industry and all these other people that are our real enemies. You're no better than them. You're giving aid and comfort to those enemies. You're helping them maintain my criminality and your criminality. And I refuse to be a criminal any longer just so some weed dealer can deal bags out of his basement and buy a new Xbox. We're going to take a 2-minute break. We'll be right back.
This is the Russ Belville Show on CannabisRadio.com.
Maui Wowie, Acapulco Gold, California Kush. Our strains stretch everywhere too.
This is the Cannabis Radio Network. hurry. Its temperature is shooting past 1,000 degrees Fahrenheit. It's burning up.
I'm afraid for this little guy, it's just too late.
What caused the problem?
Only Dr. Dabber can maintain the perfect temperature for a smooth-tasting, slower burn. This standard vaporizer lost all of its health benefits, sending it up in smoke.
So you're telling me that most vapor pens burn so hot they produce smoke, not vapor?
Correct. Keep away from those standard vaporizer pens and turn to Dr. Dabber. Doctor's orders.
Less heat, more flavor.
We love the earth.
I'm Radical Russ Belville, inviting you to join me every weekday on CannabisRadio.com for the Russ Belville Show. It's the NPR of POT. We bring you the latest marijuana headlines, cannabis analysis, drug war data, activist interviews, radical rants, and your live calls. Join me every weekday at 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern, live only on CannabisRadio.com.
You're not high. You're listening to the Russ Belville Show on CannabisRadio.com.
I also believe we need a fence. The problem is if El Chapo builds a tunnel under the fence, we have to be able to deal with that too.
Okay. Maybe you're high, too.
New beginner guitars and banjos are often constructed much better than ones built before your time. Why struggle? Get a new instrument or fix the old one. The trusted professionals at the Fingerboard Extension will evaluate your instrument for free. Repairs are priced for people who work for a living. Stop by the Fingerboard Extension downtown Corvallis at 120 Northwest 2nd Street today, or check out its inventory on the web at fingerboardextension.com.
Remember, friends, there's more to life than marijuana. I just can't remember what it is. Why'd I come in here? You're tuned into the Russ Belville Show, the voice of the marijuana nation, only on CannabisRadio.com.
Welcome back, everyone. Almost 38 after the hour. We're live here in Hollywood, Florida. Taking a look at some of the other news here in the world of marijuana. A lot of stories out here about the cheap weed. Great story out of Vice.com, which has regulators scrambling to deal with something they're calling the Uber for pot. Now, the prosecutor there is slamming the police for busting weed delivery services. What's happening here is that the city police and the county prosecutor in Seattle thought they had an understanding. The prosecutor assumed the cops wouldn't be busting pot delivery services for felony weed sales. The cops assumed that they could. So they did. Last month, they posed as buyers and arrested the runners who brought them their weed for sale. Deliveries are still outlawed despite legalization in Washington state in 2012. According to the story, the suspects all walked free after the prosecutor rebuked the police for going after them. It was a bust-by sting at a motel room in Seattle that the prosecutor, King County Prosecuting Attorney Dan Satterberg, said, quote, was unwarranted, disproportionate to the harm caused, and would have little or no impact on the delivery business in Seattle. Consequently, I declined to prosecute. So this is a beautiful thing here where even the prosecutor there in Seattle is saying, look, nothing, if you try to bust these delivery services, it's not going to make them go away. And what they're doing isn't that bad. People are allowed to go to pot shops in Seattle. The only difference here is the pot shop's coming to you. And in the case of some folks that might have disabilities or transportation issues, this should be something we'd encourage, wouldn't you think? But the police chief wasn't happy about that. He said, quote, we need to send a message that black market sales will not be tolerated. Look, if you don't want to tolerate black market sales, make them legal. If anything we should have learned from prohibition of alcohol and prohibition of marijuana, is that people want to buy marijuana. People like this product. And there will be delivery services. So what are you going to do about it? Obviously, the prosecutor doesn't want you to try to bust them. They're not going to go away from a stern talking to. They're going to continue to exist. Even if you did try to bust them, they would still continue to exist. So should they continue to be untaxed, unlicensed, unregulated, making absolutely no contribution to Seattle's economy besides the jobs that are provided for these delivery drivers? Because it's going to keep happening. It's time for these law enforcers and lawmakers to just get it through their thick skull that marijuana is not going anywhere. And everything that you hate about marijuana is made worse by prohibiting it or over-regulating it. They want to return to some time where marijuana smokers are best not seen or heard. They knew we were out there, but as long as we stayed hunkered down in our basements, looking at black light posters and listening to Led Zeppelin, they didn't have a problem with us. But now that we actually want to be contributing members of society and pay taxes and follow regulations and shop in secure locations, now that's problematic. According to the city, earlier this year, they said these services provide an outlet for marijuana grown by criminal organizations while undermining the legal industry. They're not paying the taxes. They have no oversight for sales to minors or pesticides and so forth. This isn't limited to just Washington State. This is also Colorado, Oregon, and Alaska, and for that matter, Washington, D.C. None of these states provide pot deliveries. But each of these states, if you go to Craigslist, you go online, you can quite easily find someone who's going to deliver pot to you. When I was in Washington State, last time in Seattle, I called one of these services. I actually had someone drive some pot to me. So here's the thing. City Attorney Pete Holmes, who's been a frequent guest of the show, and Seattle Mayor Ed Murray tried to fix this. They pushed for a bill in the state legislature that would create a pilot program for legal marijuana home delivery just in Seattle. So that didn't go anywhere, unfortunately. It got stamped out in the legislature. And it's sad that we're still at this level where we're still having to handhold some of these people through what should be quite obvious. We are coming to a time in our economy where everything is going to be delivery based. Everything's going to have the opportunity for delivery, between Amazon and Grubhub and all these different places. And it's time for us to recognize that whatever's happening in the marijuana movement, if we got delivery services popping up, then it's time to make those legal because it's obvious that people want them. It's obvious that there's a need for these things. And I'd like to see it regulated and tested and inspected. I'd like to know that these drivers are decent drivers, and I'd like to know that the marijuana coming from them isn't contaminated with any sort of pesticides from the grow. All right, let's get to some other topics here. And by the way, our phone lines are open. If you've got a topic or a question you'd like me to go over, our phone number here is 971-533-7111. And I have this story here on hemp. We've got the latest data. This is coming from the Weed Blog, where the Hemp Industries Association has estimated the retail sales for hemp products in America to be over $500 million, $573 million. Now, of that, $283 million is from hemp food, supplements, and body care products. The rest comes from hemp milk, shelled seed, soaps and lotions, etc. So the total value they believe is $573 million. Hemp food is 16% of that. Personal care products 26%. Textiles 17%. Supplements at 8%. CBD products at 11%. And industrial applications like car parts 20% of the market. Paper and construction materials remain the remaining 2%. This is only going to grow. We've got 28 states that have passed legislation that allow for hemp farming per the 2014 Farm Bill. The 2014 Farm Bill is what when the federal government finally allowed the states to move forward with their hemp laws. Up until then, there had been a number of states that had passed hemp legislation, but they were all contingent on getting a permit from the Drug Enforcement Administration, which would never give out the permits. The 2014 Farm Bill removed that requirement and allowed the states to move forward on their laws. And now we've got 28 states, according to Eric Steenstra, the executive director of the Hemp Industries Association, 28 states that have these industrial hemp laws. Now, that doesn't mean all 28 are cultivating at this point. According to Hemp Industries Association, almost 4,000 acres of hemp crops were planted in 7 states in 2015. Despite there being 28 states. Only 1 out of 4 hemp states has even planted any hemp at this point. The states that allow for hemp include California, Colorado, Connecticut, Delaware, Hawaii, Illinois, Indiana, Kentucky, Maine, Maryland, Michigan, Minnesota, Missouri, Montana, Nebraska, Nevada, New York, North Carolina, North Dakota, Oregon, Pennsylvania, South Carolina, Tennessee, Utah, Vermont, Washington, West Virginia, and Virginia. And if you'd like more information on the Hemp Industries Association, you can find them at thehia.org, the Hemp Industry Association. Now, let's get you some perspective on this for a second. Told you about 4,000 acres. There's actually 3,997 acres planted in 7 states in America in 2015. Almost 4,000 acres. Canada planted 107,000 acres in 2015. So we got a long ways to catch up. 107,000 acres in Canada. And 99.1% of that goes to their seed and oil market. They're not really doing cannabis for fiber. And this is something I think, we're seeing over a $500 million market for hemp products. But folks, you are going to see such an amazing increase in hemp production and hemp economy in this country because there are some killer apps for hemp that are just starting to come online. We've talked a lot about hempcrete, the building material. I think that's going to be big, especially as more of these as the tiny home movement continues and the idea of getting affordable housing to the people grows more and more urgent. We're going to see more hempcrete homes. It's cheap, it's sustainable, it's easy to put together. That's going to be part of the growth for hemp. But I really think the killer app for hemp is the development of hemp batteries. This is a technology, and this just came out in 2015, where some research scientists who had been working with graphene. Graphene is a carbon molecule that is used for battery technology. We're talking about your long-term, high-power storage batteries. And why these are important is because we need to move off of fossil fuels. And in order to do that, we need to embrace wind and solar and tidal and geothermal and all sorts of different sustainable energy technologies. Solar, right? And the problem with those technologies is it's not always windy. It's not always sunny, right? Tides go in and out. And our power grid, the way our power grid works with alternating current is that it requires a constant power load on the grid. But the renewable sources aren't constant. Like you get a coal-fired plant, you can always burn a certain amount of coal and produce a steady amount of energy. But like I said, the sun isn't always out. The wind isn't always blowing. So with these renewable sources, what you have to have are massive battery storage facilities to save up power when it's nice and sunny or windy. And then when it's dark and not breezy, you can draw from the power in the batteries to keep that continuous source of power flowing. And the problem with that is graphene is expensive. So making the batteries has made it not cost effective. The money you'd save from using the sun for power or the wind for power is lost in the cost of the batteries. they have found that hemp fibers processed a certain way can replace the graphene in these batteries at 1/1000th of the cost. So think about the United States finally getting around to really investing in alternative renewable energy sources, and the backbone of that depending on hemp batteries. And I can only imagine how much the hemp industry is going to explode after that. We're going to take a little break, and when we come back, we'll shut things down here on CannabisRadio.com and the Russ Belville Show.
This is the Russ Belville Show on CannabisRadio.com.
How high do you like your profit margin? CannabisRadio.com.
Ganjapreneur.com, your guide to the cannabis business world. Ganjapreneur.com is a comprehensive resource for cannabis professionals and entrepreneurs. Download the Ganjapreneur app on your smartphone or tablet to catch up on cannabis industry news, scroll through our daily job listings, and learn about successful cannabis companies, executives, and investors. Ganjapreneur.com, helping Ganjapreneurs grow.
It's time for Cannabis Facts about teen drug use from Robert Platshorn's thesilvertour.org. This message is supported by our donors and Hemp Inc., a public company poised to lead America's hemp revolution at hempinc.com. A recent survey by the U.S. Centers for Disease Control indicates that in states that have legalized medical marijuana, the rate of marijuana consumption among high school students has not increased. In fact, in legal states like Colorado, teen use has actually decreased significantly. It's simply no longer a big deal for teenagers in legal states. This was Cannabis Facts from thesilvertour.org, an educational nonprofit supported by our donors and Hemp Inc., a public company poised to lead America's hemp revolution at hempinc.com.
Get the latest updates on the Russ Belville Show by following Radical Russ on Twitter and liking the Russ Belville Show on Facebook.
With over 6 years of experience in the industry, New Era CPAs is one of the nation's leading cannabis accounting firms, helping hundreds of growers, dispensaries, and ancillary companies with their tax, legal, and business strategies. New Era CPAs offices cover the West Coast from Seattle to San Diego, and their skilled team is always available to help you take your business to the next level. Visit neweracpas.com for more info and set up a consultation. Welcome to the New Era.
Warning, hits taken on this show are larger than they appear. Do not try this at home. These people are professionals. Or at least they pay me to say that. This is the Russ Belville Show on CannabisRadio.com.
Welcome back, everybody. Radical Russ here on my last day in Hollywood, Florida. And programming note, we will not have a live show tomorrow on Friday because I will be flying, making my way to Fort Worth, Texas for the weekend. I'll be joining the folks at DFW Normal for the Global Cannabis March this Saturday, May 7th. Make sure you check online. globalcannabismarch.org, I think, is the website. Could be curesnotwars.org. I'm not sure, but there's over 300 cities worldwide that are participating in the march this weekend, and there's a huge march in Toronto. Portland, Oregon's participating, just all over the country and all over the world. So look it up, Global Cannabis March, or maybe it's under Global Marijuana March, but look that up and get involved because this Saturday marks my 11th anniversary in marijuana reform. I got involved by going to the Global Cannabis March, May 7th, 2005 in Portland, Oregon. So you'll never know who you might meet, and it could change your life. Check it out. And I'll be looking forward to meeting folks out there in Fort Worth, Texas. So can't wait to see you there. Then next week, I'll be in Orlando. So yeah, I'm flying to Texas and then flying back to Florida. So I'll be in Orlando for the Florida Medical Marijuana Business Conference. That happens over, I believe, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. And then from there, we are headed to, gotta remember where we're at. Oh, yes, Anchorage, Alaska. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday of next week in Orlando. Thursday, we'll have the day off because I'll be flying again all day to get from Orlando to Anchorage. And then Friday, Saturday, Sunday, the Northwest Cannabis Classic in Anchorage, Alaska. We'll have a live show on Friday, see if we can get some Alaska guests on the air for you. Then the following week, I'm flying back to Portland, Oregon. It'll be 3 days in Portland, followed by a flight to Washington, D.C., where I'll be working at the normal national offices leading up to the normal Congressional Lobby Day and Conference that's taking place on May 23rd and 24th, the following Monday and Tuesday. Then we'll be back in Portland for the Memorial Day weekend until we head off to Aspen on the 1st of June for the Aspen Legal Seminar, hosted by National Normal. And, of course, the highlight of the Aspen Legal Seminar is the Saturday cookout at Owl Farm, Hunter S. Thompson's estate. And this will be my, I don't know, 6th time, maybe 5th time. Not sure which. But I've been very, very fortunate to be able to go visit Hunter's place. And I always take my bass with me, and I get up there and do the jam session with him. So I will bring you live coverage of that if I can. That would be really, really cool. Jackie Newberry in our chat room is asking if we mentioned that the feds have dropped the case against Harborside. Yeah, I think we covered that in the news Tuesday. But for those of you who missed the news, the 4-year prosecution undertaken by the U.S. Attorney Melinda Haag, or however her name is pronounced, is over. The feds have given up. They've settled. They don't want to prosecute anymore, just so long as Harborside doesn't sue them back. So we are winning, folks. Battle by battle, year by year, initiative by initiative. Soon enough, prohibition will just be a thing of the past. Can't wait to hang out and talk with the young folks in my 70s and 80s. Let me tell you, back in the day when weed was illegal, you kids don't know nothing. Oh, folks, thanks for joining us. Thanks for all of your support. Remember, the RadicalRuss.com redesign is coming soon. I hope to have it up by June. And we'll reinstate the Russ Belville Show VIPs. I'm going to have all sorts of special stuff for you, so stay tuned for that. For everyone here at CannabisRadio.com, I'm Radical Russ. Thanks for joining us, and until next time, take care of each other, tokers.
This is the Russ Belville Show. The Russ Belville Show is blogging and podcasting daily at RadicalRuss.com.
You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it. You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it. You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it, and it goes down.